proud of her for that. Proud for her, too. Anyway, that was some nice music. That was some nice harmony, guys. Wow. Those were some beautiful voices. And also, before I get started, I guess you noticed we brought the Morris Minor this morning. And as we're writing here in it, I'm thinking, you know, there used to be a perfume called Eau de Paris, Water of Paris. And I'm thinking I'll be sprayed with Eau de gasoline fumes. So keep your distance from me this morning. And I'm not kidding. It's a smoky little booger. So last week, and everybody knows that's true too. Last week I talked about creating a life that you love. And I talked first about taking responsibility for your life. And today I'm going to finish talking about that and talking about willingness and how important willingness is. But I talked about also how we're bombarded with, I mean, you can't turn your computer on without seeing a new method of improving your life and a new and improved method of how to improve your life. And it just goes from what to eat, how to eat it, where to be, how to do this, hold your head a certain way or not. And it can be confusing, extremely confusing. And what we need to remember is that with all the billions of people on this earth, there are many different ways of doing things. And just because something worked for someone else doesn't mean it'll work for you. I mean, I saw the other day you need to fast for 5 days, and if you're still alive, you know, maybe do an apple cider enema or something, I don't know, you know, have a colonic, do this. And you're like, oh my goodness, I'm weary just looking at all this stuff. But there is a lot of New Age stuff out there. And do what works for you. And if it doesn't, leave it alone. Leave it alone. And living with wellness, what we all want the same thing. We want peace of heart and mind, don't we? We just want to wake up with peace of heart and mind and not having some awful something worrying us. We just want peace of heart and mind. That's what everybody wants. And there are some basics of life that we all need, like Maslow's pyramid. You need some of the foundations in order to have a decent life. And one is to, you know, have a place to live, enough to eat. And some of those things we know that you can't even be talking about wellness if you don't even know where your next meal is coming from. So that's a totally different conversation, and I'm not trying to pretend that that doesn't exist and that this is the cure-all for everything. I think that once we've attained a certain level of awareness, then we can go on to improve. One woman said the only prayer she could remember when she was in recovery, and she was so down and out, there was just nothing. She felt absolutely zero hope. And she was in a group one day and was asked, do you remember any prayer from your youth? And she said, the only prayer I remember is, now lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And I guess that's a good prayer, isn't it? Now lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And I pray that when I wake, and that's what we pray for now. We're here because we've prayed to be awake. And we pray that when we are awake, we'll remember who we are and why we've come. So that's a nice prayer. And we'll remember it. What I talked about for a minute last week was just, first of all, take 100% responsibility for your life. I offered to teach a basic life skills 101 class, and I already have 3 people that have signed up. We're going to decide when we're going to have the class. Take 100% responsibility. Maybe you weren't taught all the basics when you were a child that you needed just to make it in life. If not, you need to sign up for my class. It's free. You may even be fed lunch. Take stock of your life so far. Are you continually taking the same missteps? Continually. If you are, you really need to do something different. You need to be willing to do something different. I don't know how many of you remember the Bob Newhart show where he was a therapist. And he decided he'd heard all these complaints long enough. Same people coming in week after week, same problems, maybe a little bit different story, but basically the same problem. So he decided he was going to change. He was just going to change. He's not going to sit there for an hour and listen. And then they go out, do the same old things, come back. They have a few other complaints to add to it, but they never change. So he changed his tack. He said he was going to guarantee to cure them in 5 minutes or less. And the cure was going to be just $10. Hand me your $10 and you can go. So the first woman comes in, she says, I have this fear of being buried alive in a box and it affects me. I can't go in an elevator. I can't do this. I can't do that. It affects my life, my whole life. And she goes on and on about this thing for a minute or so. He stops her. He says, okay, I've got the thing that's going to cure it. It's guaranteed. You just have to do what I say. Will you do that? She said, well, sure. Should I write it down? He said, no, it's easy to memorize. He goes on. She said, well, what is it? And he says, just stop. Guaranteed. You don't have to write it down. Guaranteed. Next time you're ruminating over somebody done me wrong song and that was 30 years ago, stop. Just stop. Just stop. So she goes ahead, she doesn't get it yet. And she said, well, I've got this relationship problem with my mother and we've never gotten along. He says, hold up his hands. He said, hold on a minute. Same principle applies. You want to hear it again? You got another $10? Yeah, she says, but she's starting to get it now because she's only got so many $10 bills, you see. He says, here it is again. Just stop. Just stop. What does that mean? You don't have to participate in somebody else's pity party, do you? You don't have to participate in somebody else's revenge or need to get revenge or a sad story about they're the one that should have won. I should have won. I should have been the one there and this, that, and the other. Listen, I'll tell you what, the airwaves are full of that, and that's an old story, and we need to get beyond it. That's some BS, and I'm going to tell you what BS is in a minute. Some things we need to get beyond. And there's a lot of BS going on around there, around the world. Probably with you in your life. And some old stories. You got this going on. Just quit participating. Quit doing your part. Quit wasting your $10 bill. Because in a way, every time you participate in that, you're throwing, I don't know, I wouldn't put a value on how much energy of yours that you're throwing that way. But we only have a certain amount. And we have a responsibility for our body, our mind, and our spirit. And if you're feeling depleted because of your problems and other people's problems, you're just, consider yourself throwing $10 at it every time you have that thought, okay? See how soon you run out of money. So anyway, it took her one more time. This lady, she's dull. She just doesn't get it. She says, well, I do have these dysfunctional relationships with men. Stop. He said, just stop. So she had to give him her last $10 bill and left and hope that she didn't ever come back again. I know that seems ridiculous, but it is the truth. That's how you stop all the negative thinking. Did you know that? And although somebody done me wrong, or somebody's in this position and they shouldn't be, and all this stuff that's past, let's please let it go and move beyond, because you're only going to grow. And the things that come to you are going to be according to the consciousness that you are stuck in. And I can guarantee you that too. Change your consciousness, you can change the world. Willingness to change. Recognize your BS and be willing to let it go. You thought I was talking about something ugly, didn't you? That's your inner belief system. Be willing to let it go. 100% responsibility. I just love this church. I love what we teach. I love the fact that we can be irreverent. I love the way Matt talks. I wish he were here this morning. I'd have him. He's so much better at it than I am doing Matt. Only he can do Matt. We were having a conversation the other day, some of us, and he's talking about that cool dude Jesus and this how does he refer to Buddha? Oh, this other guy, and then this chick Mary, and I just love the way he refers to the people and the really profound things that they said or how they lived their lives and what they were trying to say about it. And he just takes the doctrine and the dogma right out of it and speaks truth. And I love another thing that Matt says. He's really cool. He takes 100% responsibility for the situation he finds himself in. And he's the first one to say, here's what I could have done differently, what I'm doing wrong now, but I recognize it and I'm going to change it. Take responsibility for it. So take full responsibility for your life. Be willing to change. What is willingness? Well, let's see. What's the difference between willingness and willfulness? Does anybody have any idea? When you're willful, you're full of all that BS I was talking about. that you need to let go. Just consider you've got some high heels on or some high-heeled boots, and you're out in some soft dirt, and you've got your heels dug in, and there's nothing's going to change your mind. Nothing. That's willfulness. And willingness is I am willing to change my mind. I am willing to see things differently. I am willing to see that the divine has a place in my life, but it may be a little different than I thought it would be. I'm willing. And when we're willful, you know what? We get into a place with confrontation with others a whole lot more often than other people do. Now, I understand we need to stand up for our truth and be who we need to be, but if you find yourself in complex situations where someone else is wanting compromise and you're unwilling, you might want to take a look at your willfulness and question it. And go back to that person and see if we can compromise, if we can come up with something different. I've run into some of that lately, and although I can mediate situations, I prefer that people work it out on their own from a higher place than that other place. And now I'm remembering what Dan was making fun of me about when we were going to get the Morris last week when he got home, and I called Sherry to tell her that he was home, that her dad was home, and we were going to get the Morris. And so I had her on speakerphone in my car, and we're talking about going to get the Morris because everybody has to have bragging rights, you know. And of course I said that's our bragging rights, to have an old car. Of course, he has an old truck too, and he's got like a zillion other old things he calls his bragging rights. I don't even have time to talk about all of them, but in his smart aleck voice, he says to Sherry, "But no, I'm above all that. It's your mom that has to go get the Morris because, you know, I'm of a higher consciousness, and I don't lower myself to those kind of thoughts about boasting and bragging." And so anyway, that's the kind of person I live with, okay? So we went to get the Morris anyway, so I could have some bragging rights too. We all can't be perfect. So does everybody understand what I'm talking about when I say willingness or willfulness? Willfulness gotten you into trouble lately? And I do know, listen, I understand. I'm the captain of this ship. And I do understand that there are times from my experience, and I have a master's in business as well as a bachelor in business. I do know, as well as some other things I could throw out there, but I'm not going to. I've got some experience to go with it too, and I know how to run a business. And there are times, at being the captain, I don't want any committee decisions, okay? Because a lot of times committee decisions are just watered down and they turn out they're nothing that anybody wanted. They're just watered down decisions. So I understand that too. But a lot of things do need to be. We've got a group of people here that want to be together. We need to know what you want to see, what you want to hear, what you want to do on Sundays. And so that's important too. But there are many aspects of how to be responsible. And one of them is knowing what is your responsibility, and sometimes you need to mind your own business. Minding other people's business has gotten me in trouble over the years. Become organized. Clear the clutter from your mind. You can't really clear out your life until you clear the clutter away. from your mind through prayer, quiet meditation. Have a few moments in solitude. You can't do that with the TV blaring or somebody else yapping in your ear. Clear the clutter from your surroundings. I can't stand a cluttered house. And we've been living with that for almost a year now, where we decided to renovate the house and then getting a contractor. Well, good luck with that. But Marcus and Jelena, come down here so they can see you. Come down right now, please. Now I'm going to embarrass them. They came, yeah, right now. That was bossy, wasn't it? They came Friday and spent all morning moving our furniture back into places where we now have tile. And flooring. And we appreciate them, these two angels, so much. Then we called Tina. We all ate lunch, a good lunch at One Tequila's. It was great, wasn't it? Yes. One other thing Marcus does, don't go too far away. He's an ambassador, and I don't know if you all know that. I just found that out Friday. He teaches at the Boys and Girls Club. And he takes what we say here every Sunday. He teaches it to the youth all during the week. Can you believe that? He has a degree in IT, and he's considering getting a teaching certificate too, though. We're proud of you. We are proud of you. And thank you for saving two old backs on Friday. We certainly do appreciate that. Clear out your clutter. It just makes you feel terrible. It does for me. Be generous with what you can. If you're depleted, rest and practice saying no, if appropriate. If isolated, come out and socialize. If resentful, forgive yourself and others. Release blame and shame. And remember that every day is a new opportunity to begin again. Live with integrity. There's a book out there too. We have several of them in the other building. It's Integrity 101. If you've never read it, just a little book. Make yourself proud with the way you live your life. In all things, do your personal best. Don't worry about what somebody else thinks. And always, always, always dream, and dream big. But say in your prayers, this or something better, Lord. Because you know what that does? That says, I'm willing. I'm willing to see there may be a better way. No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. Remember that. You've got to be willing to change. This or something better. I pray for this particular outcome, but I'm willing to see things differently. Say to yourself, I allow Spirit to enter my life. I allow Spirit to change me, to inform me, to guide me, to empower me. Each and every one of you that came today, live streaming or see this at a later time, you are ambassadors of truth. Remember that. Remember what we've reminded each other of. That you take your truth out into the world as Jesus said. You can do the same as I do. Now go and shine your light. Thank you for your time.